Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, we've talked about quite a bit recently about Russiagate 3.0, and I think about a week ago we were talking about this conspiracy that the feds had uncovered, according to which RT had funneled $10 million to some internet influencers who were all living the life of Riley, making a huge amount of money. And it was never really explained why they did this, because these internet influencers, which were Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, had no particular fondness for Russia, weren't even particularly interested in the war in Ukraine. I mean, their primary interest was these culture wars. That's what they both make their podcast about. And it wasn't clear why they would need $10 million to make podcasts that they were making before, and they
so George, if you're making a podcast, an anti-woke podcast, and someone says, I'm representing some people that would like to give you some money to continue doing what you're doing, you would probably say, to continue doing what I'm doing? Okay, well,
yeah, why not?
Okay, I guess.
Yeah, I'll take it. And that seems to have been what happened. So, but it was a very strange story. And now, a few days later, the U.S. State Department announced a much more ferocious onslaught against RT, a global war against RT. And according to the State Department, according to Blinken, according to Jamie Rubin, who's head of this called Global Engagement Center of the State Department, RT, terrible though it is, horrible as I say, it's that's with all the disinformation and misinformation and everything else that it does, doing the Kremlin's bidding. But apparently, it is also an intelligence operation. It has a cyber capability embedded within RT. Not only that, it's crowdfunding for the Russian war effort in Ukraine. And that's what I want to show you some slides. But these claims were even a little bit too much for the reporters who kind of asked for some, can you just elaborate a little bit? Can you just explain? And the answer was, no, we can't. And because it's highly...
Well, I mean, if there's a lot of crowdfunding, where's my cut?
Yeah, mine too. But anyway, let me just show you some of this bizarre aspects to this. So first of all, the State Department published this fact sheet. And when I say fact, I mean, I use the term loosely, alerting the world to RT's global covert activities. And it is saying that this is, RT moved beyond being simply a media outlet and has been an entity with cyber capabilities. It is also engaged in information operations, covert influence, and military procurement.
Military procurement.
Okay. Yeah. I guess that's the reference to the crowdfunding. Now, information operation, presumably what we're doing now, having this conversation, is an information operation. So I don't know what that, it sounds very good, an information operation. What is, I don't know what covert influence is. I mean, I guess to the extent that RT maintains a presence despite all the attempts to ban it, I mean, you could say it is covert.
Does that mean you have to use a VPN?
Yeah, I guess so. That's covert. Yeah, that would be covert. And then the United States supports the free flow of information. I love it when they say that, because at the end of all this, there's going to be a big but. We are not taking action against these entities and individuals for the content of their reporting, as we'll see. They'll actually blurt out that it is because of the content of their reporting, or even the disinformation they create and spread publicly. We are taking action against them for their covert influence activities. And again, you start scratching your heads. What is covert influence activities? Covert influence activities are not journalism. Says who? I mean, where where do you get off explaining to the what is and isn't journalism?
Well, maybe they should check with their colleagues at Radio Free Liberty.
Right, that's it, exactly. That's right. Yes, exactly. The United States will always stand for freedom of expression. No, including for those with whom we disagree. No.
Well, then why did you ban RT?
Exactly. Oh, and why did you go after Julian Assange for the better part of a decade? Because your freedom of expression. We encourage
Why
dissent.
did you take Muscat Ritter's passport?
Exactly. We encourage dissent. In other words, you don't encourage dissent. Open debate. When did you ever encourage open debate and free discourse? And again, you say, okay, so why are you banning RT? I mean, but we will not stand for attempts by state actors to carry out covert activities with the goal of hijacking that discourse. Well, and whenever they say these phrases, you say, what is hijacking a discourse? I mean, what does that mean? I mean, it doesn't mean anything. So it's really
well, I mean, it does mean something because in their mind, and they won't say it, because we're not winning the argument. So it must be because of covert operations, because we don't seem to be winning the argument.
And that's quite an admission, because you control the global airwaves. I mean, you got there's no comparison of RT with Western media. I mean, the CNN, BBC, and all the AP, Reuters. I mean, you just name it. All the Western media, and you're unable to win the argument against tiny RT. And then. In June, together with the governments of UK, Canada, State Department's Global Engagement Center exposed the Russian government's efforts to engage in subversive activity and electoral interference targeting Moldova. Moldova comes up a lot in this conversation. Moldova is a state with its population about 2.5 million. And it's amazing how preoccupied you are with a country with a population of 2.5 million. It's smaller than the state of Kansas.
And there are more Moldovans in Russia than in Moldova.
Right. Exactly. As we previously described, some of these covert efforts include RT personnel's involvement in providing direct support to US designated fugitive Moldovan oligarch Ilan Shaw. We've talked about him before. Leveraging its expanded covert capabilities, RT will almost certainly coordinate with traditional Russian intelligence services to try to manipulate the outcome of the October 2024 Moldovan presidential
election. As the writer of this article clutched his pearls.
But I love this way. RT will almost certainly. So you're now talking about something that hasn't even happened. I mean, you're taking action against RT over something that hasn't even happened.
Yeah. So arrest them first, indictment later. Okay.
That's right. And then it goes on. RT and its employees, including editor-in-chief Margarita Simonian, have directly coordinated with the Kremlin to support Russian government efforts to influence the October 2024 Moldovan election. How are they doing that? I mean, what is it? Any news operation will influence an election. I mean, that's kind of what news is about. So what is actually wrong with that? Let's say it's true. Let's say the accusation is true.
Yeah. Okay.
And
but it seems to me, I mean, again, good luck to Moldova because they need a lot of it. Okay, but how is that juxtaposed to American information warfare in Moldova? Okay, I mean, it seems to me that this is a sore point for them because are they losing the argument there as well? I mean, why is all of this being so much focused on Moldova? Oh, we do know that they want to bring Moldova into the proxy war against Russia. That's something we do know.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Specifically, in coordination with the Kremlin, Simonian leverages the state-funded platforms for which she serves in leadership positions, blah, 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 to attempt to foment unrest in Moldova, likely, oh, I like the likely, likely with the specific aim of causing protests to turn violent. And now I wonder who does that, who practices that, calling into question election results with the specific aim of causing protests to turn violent. I don't know. I can't think of anyone who's ever done that.
Well, or is this all about the other side winning a better argument? Is this something that they can't contemplate?
Right.
Again, I know no specifics about any of this whatsoever.
No, that's
I'm just conjecturing here, but this is again, Moldova is the center of the information universe here, and where the destiny of humankind is going to be
right. Right, exactly. This tiny country, this you're preoccupying yourself about something that hasn't happened. It hasn't happened yet. The election hasn't yet taken place, and you're taking sanctions against Russia Today or RT over something that hasn't happened. I mean, this is just a fantasy world. RT is aware of and prepared to assist Russia's plans to incite protests. Oh, and you know all this? And how do you know all this? That they are aware of and they are prepared to assist Russia's plans to incite protests. How are they going to do that? I mean, what's RT going to do? I mean, they're going to, get involved in the street demonstrations? Should the election not result in a Russia-preferred candidate winning the presidency? Don't you get a feeling from this that the Americans are really, are determined on a certain election outcome in Moldova, and they will not accept any other outcome? I get the feeling.
The very point of mentioning it, okay, because they see their argument, and they don't really use arguments. They use sanctions, they cajole people, they threaten people. It's not just about an argument, but it seems to me they're showing their hand here is that regime change Operation Moldova isn't going well for them. So they have to find a reason why.
Exactly. In addition to these designations, the State Department is actively engaged in a diplomatic effort. This is important. In a diplomatic effort to inform other governments around the world of Russia's use of RT to conduct covert activities. So they're going to get.
What are these covert operations?
Yeah, exactly. They never explain what's covert. Everything you've said. Okay, so it's a media outlet. Let's say, it has a point of view. Let's say it's the point of view of the Russian government, and that's part of free speech. You like it, you don't like it, but it's part of free speech that other governments may exercise their influence. So what are these covert activities? And encourage them to take action to limit Russia's ability to interfere in foreign elections. So now you see, that's what they're calling. They're now calling, RT broadcasting an interference in a foreign election. Well, I mean, you could say the BBC interferes in foreign elections. I mean, it's like any news outlet is now interfering in a foreign election.
Limit Russia's ability to interfere in foreign elections. And within the same sentence, the country Ukraine pops up.
Yes. Oh, and procure. Yeah. The department is urging partners or satellites, in parentheses, to recognize the gravity of this threat. So they're going to get on the phone to their partners to recognize the gravity of this threat. I don't know would they really say it's gravity? I mean, is that are they going to recognize that it's grave? This threat is very grave.
One thing you should have done with this document, you should have done search covert operations. How many times are we going to hear this?
Well, a number of times, without ever explaining what that means. And additional examples of RT's global malign influence include the use of the cyber capabilities for influence and covert activities. And again, as we're going to look further, they're never going to explain to us what do they mean by cyber capabilities.
Using the internet?
I don't know what exactly is that. What that they can the hacking? They have hacking. How do they do that? How can you have hacking? You have an office, an RT office. I mean, used to have an RT, little office in New York. I mean, what kind of apparatus did they have there to engage to have cyber capability? Or I mean, which is what they have anywhere, which is a little office, 2-room office somewhere. How are they going to conduct any cyber activities? As a part of RT's expanded capabilities in spring 2023, the Russian government embedded within RT an entity with cyber operational capabilities and ties to Russian intelligence. What kind of an entity? Like some RoboCop, or I mean, this cyber entity has focused primarily on influence and intelligence operations all over the world. Does that make sense? You have a cyber entity that engages in influence and intelligence operations.
This is like a novel. Keep going, George.
Under the cover of RT, information produced through this entity's capabilities flows to Russia's intelligence services, Russian media outlets, Russian mercenary groups, and other various state and proxy arms of the Russian government.
Wow.
Head of RT is Margarita Simonian, and RT Deputy Editor-in-Chief Anton Anisimov have had direct witting knowledge of this enterprise. But
even though we don't know what this cyber entity is,
we have not yet, but they knew they had direct knowledge of this, and you know all this. I mean, because what you had drinks with Margarita Simonian, and she told you about this. But it's very interesting because remember when this was we had that discussion earlier today about when they called WikiLeaks an intelligence operation. It was very strange, why they called it an intelligence operation. Of course, it just confuses everybody. So when you say RT is an intelligence operation, it doesn't make any sense.
Maybe the cyber entity here, and maybe this is a reach here, but I think I know what it is. Google. They used Google. Okay.
Right. Well, I mean, there's I'm not a specialist on this, but presumably there's that thing that you can do on Google, that thing whereby you can make sure that somehow your stories are pushed up to the front. I've forgotten what it's called. There's a term of art for that.
It's like a preference thing.
Right, but you have to kind of manipulate it to make sure that somehow.
Yeah, but only Google can do that with their algorithm, and no one outside of it can do that.
Well, let's say you want a business. Let's say you have a business and you want, when somebody does a search for this business and you want the Google search for your business to be near the top. Isn't there some way that you can?
I think you can pay for that. I'm not sure, but I think you can. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought there was a particular way you can do
but
it.
But I don't know if you can do it outside of the parameters of Google. I mean, Google is very, very tight-lipped about its algorithm.
Right. Anyway, a large online crowdfunding platform operating within the quasi-intelligence state-funded RT and through social media channels is providing material support and weaponry to Russia's military units in Ukraine. And then again, this Anton.
I don't understand how that can even be done.
I don't know how it can be done. Anton Anisimov administers this RT-run military crowdfunding program. Military equipment.
I'm kind of at a loss here. I mean, why would the Russian military need crowdfunding?
I don't get it either. But it may be that, I mean, they're referring to RT in Russian. I mean, so RT on the Russian platform, they have this crowdfunding.
I have no knowledge of.
Neither do I.
The only thing is, I'm thinking are like their Telegram channels devoted to this? Because I've never seen them in English. Okay, I mean RT has a very popular Telegram channel. I mean, what they do is they take all the stories from the website and then just dump it on Telegram, which actually I used to not think this way, but actually the way they do it on Telegram is much more convenient because you just do this. You're doing it faster. You can read what you want. Okay,
Right.
that's the only thing I know, at least in the English language, they do. And
Right.
it's in the Russian language. Well, the Russian language sphere is quite limited.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, even so, I mean, there's as we'll see when they get to the questions in the press conference, there's no suggestion that this crowdfunding is done in anywhere outside of Russia. So they're not. It's not like they're doing crowdfunding in the United States, say, because that almost certainly would be in violation of U.S. law, and there's no suggestion that that's what they're doing. So if they are, even if they're doing this in Russia, what's that got to do with you? I mean, how does that in any way affect you in the United States?
And my brain just quickly read the next sentence. Go ahead, George, read it.
Military equipment and supplies to include sniper rifles, suppressors, personal weapon sights, body armor, clothing, night vision equipment, drones, radio equipment, and diesel generators are imported in small orders to avoid unwanted scrutiny.
So the Russian military is lacking in all of these things, yes?
It seemed very strange. I mean, why they need these whatever these. I mean, can't be huge quantities of this.
Yeah, in small orders.
Right.
Like 50,000 small orders.
Yeah.
I mean, the Russian military is a pretty big operation.
It's a big operation.
That's a lot of small orders.
Right. Some of this equipment has been sourced from the People's Republic of China to include reconnaissance drones made by PRC-based entities and R&D support in the production of said drones in coordination with the Russian Ministry of Defense. But again, I don't understand why you would need to do it through RT. I mean, it's like, if you're going to put in an order for drones, I mean, you want a big order. So
Well, I don't know. I don't understand why a media company would be involved in something.
I know. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, look, let's say let's just hypothetical here. There are some Chinese producers that maybe not feel comfortable about public knowledge of their trade with Russia, so they have a shell company after another shell company, and then it talks to a shell company in Russia, and another one, then finally gets to its source. I mean, but that has nothing to do with RT or a media organization.
No, I don't think so. And here's Blinken. Blinken, remarks to the press. And then, blah, blah, the same as before, saying we're building a more resilient global information system. All of these are just like you're kind of making daisy chains out of words. What is a resilient global information system? Where objective facts are elevated and deceptive messages gain less traction. What are these objective facts?
I guess the only skill that I've been able, no, there are probably two, that this man, the Undertaker, Blinken, first of all, he's very skillful at lying.
Yep.
Okay. But he has this amazing ability to appreciate the sound of his own voice. It's so opaque what he says. I mean, you know what he is? He's a smart man's Kamala Harris, is what he is. Okay.
That's true. Yeah, that's good. Exactly. There's all the word salad master. We're doing that by promoting policies and programs that protect the free, vibrant, and independent press. What have you done to protect a free, vibrant, and independent press? I mean, it's like everything you do is contrary to that. I mean, everything the Biden administration has done has been to squelch a free, vibrant, and independent press. And to foster a greater civic and media literacy so that people can distinguish fact from fiction. So that's already shows that that's the opposite of a free, vibrant, and independent press when you're going to decide what is and isn't media literacy.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm sure Pol Pot, he wanted literacy.
Yeah,
Okay.
you want
But,
media literacy.
but there would be only certain books published that you could read, okay? And you pass that off. Yes, they can read these books, but these are the only books.
Right, right, exactly. We're working to expose, to disrupt, to deter disinformation.
He likes these little D. What is it? Um, uh, adjust and what's his favorite AA? Adjust and something. Okay, that's another one of his favorite ones.
Yes.
They're always the same letter. Okay.
Yeah. He likes his alliterations. Through the State Department's Global Engagement Center, we're coordinating government-wide and with other countries to identify, to analyze, to undercover attempts by governments and non-state actors to manipulate information. You see,
Don't you think, George, this is just the replay of the global war on terror?
It's something like that. It is. But at least with terror, you sort of understand what it means. Even that's difficult to know what exactly terror is. But when somebody says manipulate information, it's like, what does manipulate information mean? Third, we're taking steps to hold accountable those who weaponize disinformation. Again, what is weaponizing disinformation? I mean, disinformation is, of course, one of these words that, again, doesn't mean anything, but when you weaponize it to undermine our democracy, so it's undermining our democracy. That's what we did just last week when the State Department, the Justice Department, and the Treasury Department, the FBI, everybody took a series of coordinated actions to counter Russian influence and interference in our elections and in our democracy.
I just found it. Adjust and adapt.
Adjust and what? What the other one?
Adjust and adapt.
Adjust and adapt. Okay, that's good.
Like disrupt, deter, disinformation. Okay.
Adjust and adapt. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the hoax of our time. Disinformation. Well, disinformation is what you usually get from authorities, okay? Because they want to be able to control how you think about something. Right. Earlier today, we were talking, I actually still have it here. RT is one of the reasons the world has been not fully supportive of Ukraine. This is from the U.S. State Department.
That's it. We're gonna come to that. That was Jamie Rubin, the guy who's the head of this Global Engagement Center. That he said that. Yeah.
This guy has been failing upward.
Yeah. He's a horrible creature. Horrible creature. And then we took these steps based on our conclusion that Россия сегодня and these 5 subsidiaries are no longer merely fire hoses of Russian government propaganda. Oh, no, notice the eloquence. Fire hoses of Russian government propaganda.
Something.
What?
Fire out something. Fire hoses out.
I guess fire hoses. I mean, the water's coming out at a very high pressure of water. So I think that's when it's coming out at a very high pressure. It's really hitting you in the face. They are engaged in covert influence activities aimed at undermining American elections and democracy. How is RT, which isn't even available in the United States, and there's no cable carrier carries it anymore. You have to really work to get at RT. How is it undermining American elections and democracies? I mean, it's just, he just says these things and it's just gibberish. Functioning like a de facto arm of Russia's intelligence apparatus. So it's a de facto. Before they were saying it's actually part of the intelligence, but now it's a de facto.
For everyone, the mechanism that this document is trying to describe is what CNN does for the State Department.
Exactly. Completely. It's absolutely a funnel for U.S. State Department, Pentagon propaganda. Today, we're announcing these Kremlin-backed media outlets are not only playing this covert influence role to undermine democracy in the US, but also to meddle in the sovereign affairs of other countries around the world, thanks to new information, much of which originates from RT employees. We know that RT possesses cyber capabilities and engaged in covert information and influence operations and military procurement. And then as part of RT's expanded capabilities, the Russian government embedded within RT a unit with cyber operational capabilities and ties to Russian intelligence. RT's leadership had direct witting knowledge of this enterprise. But
I don't know how many slides were into this, everyone.
Yeah,
I have no idea what.
No, that's the amazing thing. We have no idea what any of this means. And then again, they incorporate the cyber capabilities. It happened in the spring of 2023. On the cover of RT, information produced through this unit flows to Russia's intelligence services.
Why would Russian intelligence services need to garner information from a media outlet?
And it doesn't make any sense. And the strange thing is that RT, what does RT do? RT provides an outlet for Westerners. It's just a platform. I mean, it's
but it is.
Yeah, there's Western commentators.
George just said there, in the fewest number of words that are necessary, is what is RT become? It's become a platform for dissent in the West.
Yeah,
that's all.
That's all.
It.
That's all.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. So when they talk about these covert influence and whatever, the only people who are on RT are Western commentators. There's no one from the Kremlin. No, there's no Kremlin in the RT. No, there are no Russian government officials. It's all Western commentators. Some of whom, and quite a number of whom, are themselves former Western government officials.
No, they would, like Maria Zakharova. They'll quote what she had to say, and she said a whole lot recently what's being done to RT. But I mean, she's not given a platform. She is part of the news.
The news, exactly. So, but most of the time, most of the shows, most of the news coverage is interviews with Western commentators.
And I would point out, and I'm not going to name names just to save time, but there's a large number of those Westerners dissenting on the platform called RT are former intelligence officers.
Yeah, exactly. A number of them, exactly.
A number of them.
Yeah. One of its projects is a large offline crowdfunding program in Russia. So they blurts this out. It's in Russia. So if it's in Russia, what's it got to do with you? I mean, if you said it's in the US, okay, but it's in Russia. So it's got nothing to do with you, even if that's true. And it's, and again, they don't really provide any evidence of this. Operating within RT and through social media channels to provide support and military equipment, and then again, all the stuff.
Again, okay, everybody, full transparency here. I don't look at social media in the Russian language in Russia. I simply don't do that. But I'm pretty sure somebody would have said something to me about, George, go back one more slide. I mean, this includes sniper rifles, suppressors, body armor, night vision. Why would you have to crowdfund for night vision equipment? Yeah. And, okay, you crowdfund for a drone. Well, who's buying it? I mean, who are you sending the money to? Is it an individual, a group, a charity? Like, we're going to donate a drone? I simply don't understand even how
I don't either. And basically also the sums involved are huge. I mean, some guy sending in a few hundred rubles, that's, you need an awful lot of that to buy all this equipment. I mean, military hardware is very expensive. I don't quite know how individual donors are going to come up with anything like the required sums.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I mean, I have a person that's very close to me in my orbit, and he is a gun enthusiast, and he showed me some of the sights for a sniper rifle, and it's pretty impressive. Okay. And I asked him, I said, how can you get these? So they're very difficult to get. Okay. This military grade is very, very scarce, and not, if you want to get it, you're going to have to work really, 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 really hard. It's not about if you have the money. Okay. Because these things are kept close to the chest, as it were. Okay. So I'm trying to envision him. Hey, we're crowdfunding for sniper rifles. Who wants to chip in a couple rubles? I think that would have been reported in Russian media.
It's so bizarre. I think it would have been. While the crowdfunding campaign is out in the open, what's hidden is that program is administered by the leaders of our team. That's very strange. I mean,
Is this a side job? Is this moonlighting or?
right, but I mean, if it's on the RT platform, then you would assume that the leaders of RT know about it. I mean, you can't just say, oh, well, we just have this crowdfunding on RT.
I don't know why RT would even be remotely involved in something like this, because
it doesn't make any sense.
Government funded. We have our budget from the government.
Right.
We don't have to raise money.
Right. Last week, our government revealed how RT launders information operations through unwitting Americans to covertly disseminate Kremlin-produced content. No. That's simply untrue. That is simply that there was nothing in the indictment that suggested that they were covertly disseminating Kremlin-produced content. No, that's a lie, because it was they were producing the content. They never disputed that Tim Pool and the rest of them were producing the content. They're just saying that the Kremlin, or at least RT, was supposedly paying for this, but there was never any suggestion it was actually the Kremlin that was producing this content. So that's an absolute lie from Blinken. And messaging to the American public. Today, we're exposing how Russia deploys similar tactics around the world. Actually, not really exposing anything, but okay.
The United States doesn't do this, right?
This what?
The United States isn't involved in these types of.
No, of course not. Absolutely. Of course. No, never. It says, in Germany, for example, RT covertly runs Berlin-based English language platform Red. Do you know about this? Mm-hmm. Okay. A successor to the now defunct RT-linked platform Redfish.
I've heard of them years ago.
But it's defunct, so they admit it's defunct. I looked up Red, but I couldn't find anything. But I mean, it's such a ubiquitous word. But yeah, RT also secretly runs the online platform African Stream across a wide range of social media platforms. So I looked up African Stream, and it seems to be, a lot of it is about African affairs. It was pretty much focused on Africa. I don't see any evidence that RT is behind it, but even if RT is behind it, so what? I mean, it's basically it's about Africa.
But if you don't put your trademark on it, is that covert?
I don't know, but presumably, if African Stream has a following, it's the content that appeals.
Well, RT is generating a lot of African content, a lot of content for when it comes to Africa. Okay, yeah. But I mean, like I said, I mean, if you create a platform or a Telegram channel and you don't brand it as RT, does that mean the RT is being covert?
Yeah, that's right. Now, according to the outlet's website, African Stream is, and I quote, a pan-African digital media organization based exclusively on social media platforms focused on giving a voice to all Africans, both at home and abroad. Okay, but it probably is doing that. I mean, if maybe RT is funding it, I don't know, but there's nothing there that is actually untrue.
Yeah, it's like in Niger when there was the coup and there were protesters, people marching, and they were carrying the Russian flag. Okay, yes. I mean, who gave them the flags? I mean, right. I don't. Maybe it was just spontaneous. Okay, maybe they don't like colonial powers. Okay?
Yeah, I think so. There's usually a reason why if they are well disposed towards Russia, there is a reason for that. It's not because of RT.
It's not because of RT. And this is something that there was some hearings in the U.S. last week, and whoever runs the Africa desk, some faceless moron, and they were saying the Russians are well received in Africa, okay, and they're trying to figure it must be through hook or crook, and if I'd been a staffer and say they don't like white Westerners. Okay, they've had enough of them. They've had like 500 years of them, you know. And here's another country saying, you know, you don't have to be pushed around anymore. We'll help you with your security. You want you want a bridge, you want a port, you know, you want nuclear power. Hey, let's talk. Okay.
Right. Right. And above all, we're going to help you against the Islamist terrorists, which the Western powers do not do anything to help. On the contrary, they sponsor Islamic terrorists.
Yeah, but it's really kind of interesting. There was no Islamic terrorism in so many parts of Africa, and then the U.S. showed up, and then they're there.
There's a flowering of Islamic terrorism. Anyway, in reality, the only voice it gives is the Kremlin propagandists. That isn't true. I mean, I looked at it. I mean, I didn't look very carefully. I didn't see any Kremlin propaganda there at all. I mean, it was pretty much focused on African affairs.
I don't know. I don't want to go on a limb here, but Africa for Africans, is that a radical statement? You know, everyone, Africa is immensely rich. Yeah. You could make the argument it is the richest continent in the world. Yeah. Okay? And you're getting a groundswell of saying, you know, maybe, you know, we can develop, you know, at a higher standard with our own resources. Okay. Why do the French and the British and the Italians and the Americans have to show us how to do everything? And they take their cut. Okay. Right. This is not rocket science, everyone.
Right. Exactly. RT's expanded covert capabilities allow it to deepen coordination with traditional Russian intelligence services as they work to manipulate the outcome of democratic elections in the United States, but also around the world. And then, for years, RT and its employees have coordinated directly with the Kremlin to support Russian government efforts to influence Moldova's election. Back to this Moldova.
Oh, somebody's got Moldova on the brain.
That's right. That's right. But again, you know, RT and its employees are coordinating directly with the Kremlin. What is the basis of this, that you're coordinating directly? Why would they do that? What would be the point? I mean, do they think this, you know, in a similar way? Probably. But that doesn't mean they're coordinating activities with the Kremlin.
Let's put it this way. I mean, I want to be respectful here. But I mean, if the Russian intelligence services has to go to a media outlet to find out what's going on, then that says a lot more about the intelligence outfit.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And then RT's leadership has leveraged Russian state-funded and directed media platforms to attempt to foment unrest in Moldova. I think they're sensing they're going to lose that election. I'm getting a sense that this Maya Sandu that they've been cultivating all these years, that they think Sandu is going to lose this election.
Oh yeah, but then this when she does, this will be the fodder. See, we
warned them. It was RT.
It's the hors d'oeuvre, everyone.
Yeah, that's right. Likely with the aim of causing protests to turn violent.
And just like the Feds did on January 6th.
Exactly. And not to mention all the color revolutions that we sponsored, you know, in Georgia and of course in Yugoslavia, in Kyrgyzstan, and then of course in Belarus. We believe RT will almost certainly leverage its expanded covert capabilities to coordinate with Russian intelligence services and so on, to try to manipulate the outcome of Moldova's upcoming election.
Because Moldovan people, you know, maybe I'm breaking news here, but Moldovan people have no agency whatsoever. They can just be led by the nose.
By the nose, by RT. The actions we're exposing today, you're not exposing anything. And the actions we exposed last week do not incorporate the full scope of Russia's efforts to undermine democracies. Far from it.
Lock your doors, everybody.
Yeah, that's right. So they do not incorporate the full scope. So that means there's more to come. You know, maybe, you know, next Friday. It always seems to be on a Friday. You know, we're in another dump.
So what do we got, George? What, 50 odd days until election?
Yep.
Okay, we'll divide that by 7, and every week we're going to add a little layer to this. Watch. Mark my words, right there.
Absolutely. No, this is just the beginning. There's no question. This is the beginning. Russia's weaponization of disinformation to subvert and polarize free and open societies extends to every part of the world. This is where it gets a little loony. You know, it extends to every part of the world. What I like is that these are the same people who are always attacking others for conspiracy theories. I mean, how many times do they attack Trump or Vance and Trump supporters for conspiracy theories? You just said Russia's weaponization of disinformation to subvert and polarize free and open societies extends to every part of the world. You sound like a lunatic when you say something like that.
We've heard this. We heard this in the 1920s. We heard this in the 1950s. The Red Scare. This is just the, an old bottle filled up with new wine.
Right.
Okay.
Right, exactly. In response, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada, in other words, the international community, are launching a joint diplomatic campaign to rally allies and partners around the world to join us in addressing the threat posed by RT and other machinery of Russian disinformation and covert influence. So we have to stand together against RT. Under the the intelligence diplomacy has become the hallmark of our administration. Intelligence diplomacy. I think it's intelligent diplomacy. Whoa, the hallmark of
I would just suggest to the Undertaker, maybe not aspire to intelligence diplomacy. I would just first step intelligent diplomacy.
That was a tough one. Intelligent diplomacy. I've instructed US diplomats around the world to share the evidence that we've gathered on RT's expanded capabilities and the ways it's being used to target individual countries and the information ecosystem that we share. So, everyone, some guy in Kenya, the ambassador in Kenya, goes to the president of Kenya. Hey, I've got some really hot information about RT. I'm kind of a little busy right now, but
I'll tell you, everyone, RT is wildly popular in Africa. Yeah. I mean, that's not my, it's not my desk or anything like that, but I've noticed RT's interest in Africa very high, and Africa's interest in RT is very high. For everyone to know, I go to work twice a week to do two different recordings. I do one at home on Sunday, but when I go there, the people visiting, who's visiting this African country today, it's almost every single time. Right. I mean, and they're very excited. They recognize me. I get to wave. Okay, pictures. It's really nice, really nice. Yeah, they should worry about Africa. They've lost the.
They're losing Africa.
They've lost the script big time.
Yep, that's right. Now let me be very clear. This is the Kamala. You're right. There is the Kamala. He's the male Kamala. Let me be very clear. The United States respects and champions freedom of expression.
No, you don't. What did you do to Julian Assange?
It's so funny. It's very hard to read this out without starting to laugh. Even when it comes to media outlets that wittingly spread government propaganda and will continue to...
Your propaganda.
And will continue to lead the world in defending and promoting media freedom. Does anyone in the world take seriously the idea that the United States is leading the world in defending freedom and promoting media freedom? Well, we will not stand by as RT and other actors, carry out covert activities in support of Russia's nefarious activities. Oh, so it's covert in support of nefarious. I wonder if you can have nefarious in support of covert. So a lot of it is, you're long on big words, but kind of short on evidence here. I mean,
so far, and all of these slides, no evidence has been provided.
None. And will continue to respond forcefully to Moscow's playbook of aggression and subversion. One that includes...
I can think of a few former employees that might be helping them here. People like Liz Wall, Martin, a few other people. Who knows?
Yeah, I can see Liz Wall would obviously be, Because I wonder what happened to her. She's probably embedded somewhere within the within the apparatus.
Well, I'm sure she's one presumes anyway that she's a Russia expert somewhere. She's never been to Russia, doesn't
Right.
speak Russian. She has Hungarian ancestry.
I think so. That's right. Her parents left in '56. Yeah,
I don't know if she's even been there, but that's enough to make you a Russia expert.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, there were the various figures like Alyona, who that kind of we used to work at RT some time ago. So I'm sure that, you can put them together. Carrying out assassinations, meddling in elections, and unjustly detaining foreign nationals.
Whoa, go back. Go back. Okay. Okay.
So
RT
RT is
why RT and other actors carry out covert activities in support of Russia's nefarious activities and will continue to respond forcefully to Moscow's playbook of aggression and subversion, one that includes What does this have to do with RT?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Carrying out assassinations.
It's not. Yeah, it's exactly. It's known as, you just bung everything together into a pot. And hey, well, once you mix them all together, no one can tell what is what. It's just all cooking together. And the great U.S. Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis once said, as is well known, sunlight is the best disinfectant. Okay, so if that's the case, then don't you want to have as many voices as possible? I mean, that's where it's leading when you say sunlight. Okay, good. Then let's have more debate as possible.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and you know what? I'm sure the defendants and people convicted in January 6th would like some more sunlight.
Sunlight, yeah. No, they don't get any sunlight.
I don't know, Joe, just to the side, I don't know if you heard, but there's been some movement, about a dozen of the convicted gents. Sure. They're belatedly, their convictions are being thrown out. Okay,
right, so right, that's right.
Keep going.
Yeah. RT wants its new covert intelligence capabilities, like its long-standing propaganda and disinformation, to remain hidden. Really? Our most powerful, I mean, how you keep banning them, pushing them out, and then you say they want to remain hidden. I mean, you're the one who's doing the hiding. Our most powerful antidote to Russia's lies is the truth. But where's what truth? And you're banning things. There's no truth here. You're just banning.
Yeah, I mean, if the antidote to Russia's lies is the truth, then what is the truth? Let's go. You're just saying you're right, but
that's right.
Based on what?
The truth. That's right. It's shining a bright light on what the Kremlin is trying to do under the cover of darkness. You are completely mischaracterizing what Louis Brandeis said. That is not what Louis Brandeis said. Yeah, we're shining a light on how bad they are and how evil they are. No, that is not what Brandeis was getting at. Taking action together with our allies and partners to address the threat to our democracies is an effective way of pushing back, and was taking a step in the right direction. So you've completely mischaracterized the whole issue of sunlight is the best disinfectant. So in the light, in the name of sunlight, we're going to bury you underground. So now we get to the news conference of this awful guy, Jamie Rubin. Jamie Rubin, what should just remind you, he was Madeleine Albright's flak during the 1999 bombing of Yugoslavia. So he was regularly justifying, the NATO's bombing. And in particular, what he was doing was he justified NATO's bombing of radio television of Serbia, in which 16 people were killed, all of whom incidentally were just simply civilian technicians. I mean, makeup people, script editors, they're all, who were killed. And he was justifying it and said, hey, well, we were hitting Milosevic's propaganda machine. So this guy has a long history of using force to suppress views that he doesn't like. And that's his, global engagement. Yeah, it's just one other way of suppressing views you don't like. So yeah, so there's a question saying that there's what exactly is different today, and is the reason why the secretary would come out and speak about this. So so there's this is O'Brien. This is before we get to Rubin. So O'Brien, we've talked about him before. He's an assistant secretary of state. So I said, yeah, well, last week, we were focused on activities in the US. Here we're talking about covert activities attempting to subvert democracy and manipulate information around the world. And then he says, so that's to engage with our partners to remove this threat to democracy. So this is all about going around the globe.
Hey, everybody, Assistant Secretary O'Brien, this is the guy that actually runs the State Department, okay? Blinken is the figurehead. He's on top of it because it's a political appointment. But O'Brien, he's been a nefarious character for a very long
much so. Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
So, I mean, I find it personally, George, I find it truly remarkable.
Right.
With what's going on in the world right now, and the Assistant Secretary of State takes his time to attack a media outlet that has been banned in the West.
That's right.
It's
That's
extraordinary.
Right. It is. It is. And then so again, then he goes on, and then so domestic, now global, and now we got Rubin, who makes his appearance. He says, "Let me just add a couple of points to what Jim said. First of all, you get a fact sheet. You'll see a lot of detail. You'll see incredible detail about the way in which RT has become a clearinghouse for a set of covert operations, covert influence activities, blah, blah. Where's the detail? We went through that fact sheet. There's no detail. There's just a repetition of a series of accusations. And then there's an example in Argentina. There's a threat.
And that example is?
Yeah, exactly. What is that example? South Caucasus.
And that example is?
Exactly. There are examples in France. There are examples.
That example
yeah,
is?
Exactly. And there are examples in Germany. So some of the substance of Germany, that red, and which I have no idea what that red thing is. And then he says, now you may not find it dramatic, but in order for us to launch a diplomatic campaign around the world, first you saw what I think most of us would agree was pretty dramatic here in the United States. The rest of the world saw that. And now we're saying to them, this is what can happen to you.
Yes, exactly. Intimidation.
Yeah. This is what can happen to you.
Nice restaurant you got there. It'd be a pity if something happened to it.
That's right. Unless you toe the Russian line, they're going to use all these tools under the mask of a thing called Россия сегодня. But what? How is Russia telling anyone this is the Russian line and you must toe it? When has Russia ever said that? Anyway, this is the Russian line. They go to Kenya, they go to Mali, and they tell Mali, well, this is the Russian line. You better toe the Kremlin line or else. When has they ever done that?
Everyone, a thing called Россия сегодня, that is a holding company, okay? More than anything else. And number two, again, just look at the broadcasts on RT all through one day, just one day. Get a VPN and watch it.
Right.
You have progressives, you have conservatives, you have Democrats, you have Republicans, you have some far out people. I want to be polite here. I mean, you're going to tell me that there is one coherent line?
Right.
There ain't one.
No.
Sorry to disappoint.
Right. And the sanctions that were imposed that you'll see in the fact sheet are the strongest possible sanctions this government puts on. Their fall, as Jim would know better, blocking financial sanctions. And then he goes on, so we're exposing what they do in country after country around the world. We're using a strong sanction tool. But remember, sanctions are a tool. Oh, if you have the tools. They're not a goal. What's the goal?
But the entire history of sanctions deployed by the United States is the goal.
That's right. Yeah, it's
the goal.
Yeah, that's right. And it says the goal is for the rest of the world. And remember, you've asked a question from Matt for months and months about the global South and why they're not more support for Ukraine in the Middle East or that part of Latin America or this part of Africa. Well, one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why so much of the world has not been as fully supportive of Ukraine as you would think they would be, given that Russia invaded Ukraine and violated rule number 1 of the international system. Rubin, you were there in 99 about the rule, number 1 of the international system, is because of the broad scope and reach of RT, where propaganda, disinformation, and lies are spread to millions, if not billions of people around the world. So, so you've lost the argument. After all that, after all this effort, and this goes back beyond 22, going all the way back to 2014. After all that, You lost the argument all because of tiny RT. Boy, is that
and remember, you know, so this is RT is a global threat. This is what we're being told. This global threat is something that each individual must take time and effort and maybe even expense to get access to.
Right.
I mean, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If RT were ubiquitous, then we could go on the merits, but it's not.
No, exactly. And then what we're asking and what we're going to do, you know, it says it's an analogy. It's not a precise comparison. When the last administration went after Huawei for the risk of intelligence being drawn out of a legal telephone instrument, we took a look at that campaign before we launched this. We tried to learn the same lessons and the danger of RT, which is technically a legal instrument, a television station, despite the lies and disinformation it's broadcasting that has within it. And now we've shown, and we'll show you in the fact sheet, covert operations, covert intelligence activities. I don't understand all that. So it's like saying it's Huawei.
This is all garbage here. I mean, but you know, with the thought that came to my mind, George, as you were reading that, because halfway through it, I got lost. But this is like a unique legal theory, like they're doing against Trump. Okay,
right.
This seems to be in vogue right now. Okay,
right.
Let's invent a novel,
exactly, a new, yeah, absolutely right, exactly. Well, we did it to Huawei, so we'll do it to RT.
Huawei is the whole argument there was the Chinese through this company may have a back door,
right.
and no, we don't want the Chinese to have a back door to your information. We do.
Right, that's right. And then he says, and now here's the fun part.
Oh,
they've admitted it. Go look at what the leader of RT has said. They have said they are operating under direct instructions of Vladimir Putin. I don't think they've said that.
Look, what they have said, and again, do a deep dive in it. It's actually is fun. He's right, but for the wrong reasons. Management at RT has mockingly reacted to this, saying, "Yes, we report from KGB
headquarters." That's right.
Okay, again, this is the fun part, because he doesn't understand that this is the reaction to the Russian reaction is to mock. But they're taking it at face value.
That's right.
These people are not very smart, George.
Right. And that's what they say they're doing. And we're saying they're fully integrated into the intelligence operation of the Russian government. And that's a big difference than our state-funded media. Believe you me. Oh, I love that. Believe you me. I haven't heard that expression in a long time. Believe you me.
But George, you know, our state-funded media.
That's right.
Like Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, when have they ever deviated from the party?
Well, that's it. But that's what you said. Believe you me, no one in this building gets to tell anyone at Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, or Radio Liberty what to say, do, or write. No, because they know what they're supposed to say, do, or write.
On top of it, I over the years I've met people that work there, and editors are very, very assiduous about making sure there is no deviation.
No, of course they don't. I mean, it's such a ridiculous thing to say. They ask us questions and we answer them. That's the difference between the state-funded media organization in a democracy and one in an authoritarian government. I have no idea. I mean, just no idea what he's talking about there. I mean, it's like, you know, really? So Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, they're independent media. They just get to write whatever they want, and you know, it doesn't matter what the U.S. government, their paymasters think.
The Endowment for Democracy, they do exactly what they want to do too. They're a free agent.
Exactly, free agent. They just take the government paychecks and just do whatever they want.
Here's the fun part. That's great.
There's a fun part. And that question, there's a question. The crowdfunding effort that was announced today, that was directed at the domestic Russian audience. And was it on Russia platforms? Is there any indication that this was on any US-owned platforms? Then Rubin said, well, my understanding of that, it's on the Russian platforms, but is run by RT secretly. So it's on Russia. He says it's on, but I don't understand. How is it run by RT? If it's on RT, I mean, on what platforms then does this appear, this crowdfunding? I thought it was on RT, but now he's saying no, it's on Russian platforms, but it's run by RT secretly. So that, I mean, how the hell do you know that these are some crowdfunding somewhere on some Russian platforms that it's run by RT?
What Russian platforms?
Exactly what Russian platforms? They don't say this is an RT operation. Send by UAVs from, and some of that we discovered were UAVs purchased from China, and you know, so that's not what TV station normally does. So it's not, you know, it's not on RT, this crowdfunding. They just say, oh well, it's RT who is behind it. So that's just simply, unless you specify where is this, I mean, then this is just simply, you know, you're just making this up as you're going along. And then
yeah, well, that's what a military entity does. So why isn't the military doing it?
Exactly. That is not just a fire hose, as the secretary put it, of disinformation, but a fully fledged member of the intelligence apparatus and operation of the Russian government on the war in Ukraine. But again, you know, I mean, raising funds and crowdfunding, even was doing that, which again is a very strange thing to do. It's still not part of an intelligence apparatus. I mean, you know, I mean, it's just that's not intelligence gathering if that's what it's doing, raising money for arms for Ukraine.
What do you bet they got this from Bellingcat?
I think you're right. I think that's fine. Then there's a question. You guys, sorry, the secretary highlighted the first sentence of the fact sheet. New information, much of which originates from RT employees. The language goes beyond what the Justice Department said last week. So could you talk about some of the sourcing on this information? And then on the crowdfunding program, how do you know that that's not just the RT deputy editor-in-chief helping zealously the soldiers he believes are actually defending Russia? How do you know it goes beyond that? And the PRC stuff, is that just dual use, or are you alleging that these are PRC weapons that actually went to Russian soldiers via RT?
Are they getting weapons from RT?
It's RT. It's a media. It's a media organization. These are people who they're journalists. They're media people. I'll try. It's a tough question.
Next time I go to my studio, I'm going to just say, you know, do you guys have a spare Kalashnikov? I mean,
yeah, here it is. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
I'll try. It's a tough question, and you know it's a tough question. Normally, unless you work over at Langley or in other intelligence facilities of this government, we don't normally tell you how we know something.
Okay.
In other words, you have there's no basis for any of your statements. Okay, suffice it to say, as Secretary Blinken pointed to, one of the hallmarks of this administration, as you may have seen in Time magazine, so that's your source, Time magazine, is the ability of our national security advisor, the director of the CIA, director of national intelligence, to downgrade information related to the war in Ukraine, and how remarkable that was, and how remarkable it's been, and how remarkable it will continue to be. So you're not answering the question. You're just waffling away, talking about something completely different.
Well, at least, George, you're going back to hallmarks and not earmarks. So.
Earmarks, exactly. And then suffice it to say that the Global Engagement Center, I work with all members of the government. I have a military team, I have an intelligence team, State Department officials. And this is government information. You can draw your own conclusions as to how much more specific, but I think that the secretary was pointing to is that some of these things have been admitted themselves by leaders of RT. Well, but you've just said it's covert. They said you have, you know, this business, this crowdfunding, you said it's all being done covertly. So you made this accusation, and they're asking actually, well, what's the evidence for this? Who exactly is, and where is this crowdfunding taking place?
How do you fund covertly? Because don't you want people to know that you're
yeah. I mean, they say it's being the covert is being run by RT. Well, where's your evidence is being run by RT? And it says anyway. And it says, and that's the word is that we officials love that you guys generally don't love because it allows us to go on too long. So a lot of waffle there. and not answering the questions. And then, but more seriously, RT's leadership in its most recent interview has acknowledged that their job is to do what the Kremlin tells them to do. I think he's referring to those jokes because in its most recent interview has acknowledged that their job is to do what the Kremlin tells them to do. And we're giving you examples of what they're telling them to do that have nothing to do with broadcasting, even broadcasting lies.
These guys just have no sense of humor
No,
whatsoever.
no,
Another casualty of neoliberalism. You're not funny.
no. So then there's a question. Wait, on the China and weapons. And then, yes, well, and then Brian O'Brien chimes in, obviously not very happy with Rubin's waffle. As a, yeah, well, the significant thing, so I'd say just in short, no, we're not going to tell you more than the secretary said, what was said. On the weapons, China is a major supplier. Much of the crowdsourcing, the thing that's significant is it was done covertly. So it's so covert, we don't even know.
I mean, how do you crowdsource if nobody knows it's there?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And where is this crowdfunding? I mean, I guess can we go there and see
Is it on PayPal?
Yeah, yeah. So it wasn't just some employees putting on a telethon, and it was done covertly so they could purchase, in some cases, yes, individual arms. They could purchase. They could purchase. So in this case, we have no indication that China knew that this was being directed by the Russian government or that the end users were Russian soldiers. So that's the line we haven't crossed. So this is getting quite confusing. I thought,
what is the line?
I know, but also if China knew this was going to Russia, they didn't know it was going to Russian soldier. But what isn't that the whole point of the crowdfunding? I mean, the crowdfunding to provide weapons for soldiers. So, and the Chinese didn't know. I mean, isn't that what the crowdfunding was supposed to be? I mean, why are you crowdfunding other than we want to send arms to Russian soldiers? So how could the China not know that's what it was? I mean, that makes no sense. And it was Chinese weapons, or
as far as I understand, the Russian military provides arms to Russian soldiers.
That's how I would have understood it. And it was Chinese weapons, this question says, or it sounds like it was Chinese drones and R&D. It's like more dual use. There were some individual soldiers' arms involved in the crowdsourcing.
Individual arms.
Individual soldiers' arms. And then Rubin chimes in, some of this equipment has been sourced from the PRC. That doesn't mean that the PRC government knows, to include reconnaissance drones made by PRC-based entities and R&D support in the production of said drones in coordination with the Russian Ministry of Defense. So who's involved in this? Who exactly? I mean, it sounds like just simply, I don't know, it could just be some black market thing, people just, selling arms on the internet. I mean, because now they're saying it's not, I mean, the Chinese government is involved in any serious military production. I mean, so if you're getting the stuff, weapons from China, the Chinese government would know all about it. So it just sounds like individuals, selling the rifles.
I mean, if Russia, if China is willing to send arms to Russia, why do they need RT?
Yeah, exactly. So question, okay, and then the cyber unit, this cyber unit with ties to Russian intelligence embedded in RT, can you tell us which countries this unit embedded into RT is inside of? And if you can't list them, just an approximate number of countries where this was an active unit inside of RT. And Rubin says everything about this unit and its activities inside RT is extremely sensitive information. In other words, we're not going to tell you anything. Damn. And I have to get my facts exactly right and not make a mistake here. So bear with me for a second. As I understand it, this unit is a cyber intelligence gatherer. So it's using cyber tools to gather information. I think you're probably right. They're doing a Google search. Cyber tools to gather information and then use that information in some form. we've seen in our country and other countries that happens when cyber units suck up information and then they leak it, for example, or they use it for other purposes. Do you understand that?
No,
How do you suck up information?
Okay, I mean, this cyber unit, is this a human being? Is it a piece of machinery?
Well, I thought, like, I mean, hacking.
It could be just like voodoo. Okay.
But that's the point. I mean, if they hack, I mean, how does RT have any kind of I mean, RT is going to be the RT offices have kind of been banned pretty much everywhere. I mean, in Europe, there are no RT offices. There are no RT offices in the United States. But even if they had these RT offices, where do they have the apparatus to conduct cyber hacking activities? I mean, you know, where does it?
This is beginning to sound like a Havana syndrome story.
Yeah, I think it does. And then it's my understanding that this global reach type of capability, because remember, the thing that makes all of this very, very difficult is that the information space is flat. It's not like you have to be inside Russia or inside China or inside the United States to have an effect on China, Russia, or the United States. And so the right kind of capability is sitting in the right location. We learned in our country what can happen from some people sitting on a beach in Macedonia. I thought that was a joke, the business in Macedonia. I didn't know that was.
Yeah, it was a joke. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that was
I'm trying to remember. Real. I think it was somebody like Jimmy Dore. I think it was like, yeah, I think I'm attributing right. If I were, I think this is, I'm vaguely remembering now, but if I was going to run for president, I would make sure I would have the Macedonians on my side.
Right.
Okay? Yeah.
But even, I mean, it's now a long time ago. I thought the Macedonians were just sending out memes. I thought it was memes. I mean, they weren't doing any spying, and they were just doing memes. Although there's no beach in Macedonia, but inside Macedonia, so they did in our country. So that's why the geographic point is not as relevant for cyber espionage.
So the question is here, it's important to have a beach.
You go on the beach. Again,
these people have power. Yeah, this is gibberish.
I know. So the question is, and is the cyber unit embedded within RT still active at this time?
It's kind of like that meme where a doctor is talking, a psychiatrist is talking to a patient, and the doctor is saying, "And are the Russians in the room now?"
Are the Russians? Yes. Are they there?
In the room now?
That's right. Is the cyber embedded within RT? I can't answer that. Okay.
It's almost like say there's a thing, but I can't tell you what the thing is. But the thing is there. And the thing is very, very powerful. But I can't say much more about the thing.
Exactly. And you know, these are reporters who are very eager to believe all this, but even they're kind of scratching their heads. You know, finding all this very difficult to understand.
So, Mr. Secretary, have you met the cyber unit? Have any of us met the cyber unit? Is the cyber unit in this room right now?
So, and then there's another question. Can you give just an idea in layman's term, a little bit what this looks like, the crowdfunding? I know you said it's in secret, and are we talking about like in secret on the dark web space, or rather than like a public GoFundMe thing? And then Ruben says, I will try to get you more information on that. So you're going to have this information. You're having a news conference, but you don't have this information. Okay. It's always funny when you're preparing this stuff, what the thing is that you all decide to focus on. And I never get it right, no matter how many years I've been doing this business. I personally don't think that's what's most significant part of what RT is doing. Okay. But the whole point is that this is the new
you've been talking about.
Right. Yeah. So now you're saying it's not important just because they're kind of pressing you and asking you, questions. Well, I don't think this is very important. But the whole point of it,
I'm very dismissive of most journalists, but is it in secret on the dark web space, or rather like a public GoFundMe thing? That's
well, exactly. That's a reasonable question. I mean, you came up with this. You're holding this news conference, and this is the new information that you have come up with, this cyber capability and this crowdfunding, and on neither are you able to answer any questions. You've thrown out a lot of accusations that you're not able to answer any basic questions about. So it's just an example of how RT is operating as an arm of the government without using its name. It's an example of something that's done by the cyber unit, for example, which you haven't actually said. But what RT is doing in Argentina, in Germany, France, in other countries, Moldova, I think that's probably the most important thing, where we're seeing clear evidence that RT is trying to manipulate an election. In other words, we're going back to the good old days of 2016. We're just throwing around all these empty accusations. Having, this whole cyber nonsense is really no one's buying it. So that's it. And if they don't win an election, manipulate the crowd to try to generate violence for the possibility of overthrowing. I think that's probably a lot more important than a few scopes for the soldiers in Ukraine. We will try to give you an example, and obviously that's the one that you like the most. He's getting a little flustered here. Notice he's getting quite annoyed here.
You're focusing on the wrong things, okay? Manipulate a crowd and try to generate violence for the possibility of overthrow. Who incites violence more times than not?
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
Okay. Rent a crowd. Who invented that?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
He's exasperated. I was just going to say, as he was reading that, this is all because you're losing the argument. Well, he lost the argument in this press conference.
He lost the even that said, you've lost the argument globally, and now you've lost the argument in the press conference. They're asking you perfectly reasonable question. These are people who are on your side. I mean, they are entirely sympathetic to you. They couldn't care less about RT. They don't mind, you ban RT. They're quite happy with it. They're just asking you some basic questions, and you're not able to answer these basic questions. Stop asking me for details. I can't believe you're focusing on these details. This is.
Well, I mean, look. I think that's probably more important than a few scopes for the soldiers in the Ukraine. Well, it was a big deal in your presentation.
That's right. You went now you're getting really irritated. A few scopes for the soldiers. Hey, didn't you have a whole list of all these things, drones and then these rifles and whatever? Now it's just a few scopes for the soldiers in Ukraine. We were trying to give you an example, and obviously that's the one that you like the most.
What do you think I should do? Just a suggestion here. So when I go to work on Tuesday, when I put on my jacket, should I have a couple of scopes on both sides? Say, buyers, any buyers? I got some scopes. Okay, a little bit of covert business I'm doing here.
That's right. But that's the thing. So all of this new information, which is about the crowdfunding, about the cyber capabilities, you don't have anything. That's it. You've got nothing. You've got bupkis, and now you're getting a little irritated and say, well, Moldova, just keep repeating Moldova.
Over the past 36 hours, I've gotten a lot of sympathetic messages asking me if I'm okay. How am I reacting to these allegations? And all I can say, and the reason why I'm bringing it up, because George, as usual, did a wonderful forensic deep dive into this. And so how do I react to those sympathetic messages, which I do appreciate, is that I don't have a clue what they're talking about.
Right. Yep. None. No, it's complete. It's gibberish. It just doesn't make any sense at all. But the overall thrust is obviously that we're going to press other countries to ban RT.
And George is right. I mean, again, this kind of almost morbid fascination with what's going on in Moldova. God bless those folks. They need a lot of help. Okay, they've had such bad governance. Now you have a co-opted part of the elite that want to get in bed with Brussels and in Washington. We know where that goes. Okay. And then the whole thing about Africa. Yeah, you guys lost the argument. I mean, hands down. I mean, it's not like, can we re-engage? No, the door is closed. Walk away. Goodbye.
Exactly.
RT didn't do that.
RT didn't do
that. We just reported. That's all we've done.
Right. It's very interesting that the U.S. government kind of openly admits that their own failure. I mean, when you ascribe all these things to RT, And you say, well, this is pretty pathetic. I mean, you have all these great, resources at your disposal. I mean, enormous resources that the United States spends on its global propaganda campaigns. I mean, not even talking about Radio Free Europe, but all the rest, all the National Endowment for Democracy and everything else. And you were beaten by RT, this tiny operation. I mean, that's pretty pathetic. And your only response, we got to ban it. Let's just ban it. And then you come up with this cockamamie story about this cyber capability that makes no sense. You can't even explain what is the cyber capability, or some crowdfunding somewhere for some scopes and some rifles or whatever. And that's it. That's your case.
How do you crowd fund covertly?
No.
I don't understand that. And again, this is kind of recycling some of the nonsense we heard during the first few months of the conflict in Ukraine. They're using dual use chips from washing machines. Okay, they've run out of missiles. They've run out of missiles. They've run out of shell. They've run out of shell. It's a Chinese. No, Iran is supplying them. Iran. Well, all of these. There's circumstantial evidence maybe to all of these stories, but none of it is very definitive. And plus, unlike the United States that deindustrialized and buys parts for its planes and submarines and aircraft carriers from countries like China, okay, Russia doesn't do that. It makes all of its own stuff. Right. You know why? Because the Soviet Union was sanctioned for its entire existence. Russia knows what it means to be sanctioned, okay? And they believe in self-reliance. They would much prefer to use a Russian supersonic missile than anybody else's, which makes sense, okay? So, the U.S. its message is so hollow. And I mean, why shouldn't Namibia care about Ukraine, George?
No, that's
or Kenya.
Yeah, exactly. That's really the point. You go to all around the world and say you got to support us on Ukraine. And they're saying why? I mean, what's Ukraine to us? What's Ukraine ever done for us? I mean, it doesn't make any sense for them. But even if, let's say, this Iran, they've got about these missiles from Iran, and the British are saying, oh well, that's a game changer. Why is that a game changer? I mean, let's say they're getting these missiles from Iran. It's not in any way a game changer. I mean, these these missiles have a short range. They're not going to hit London. They're not going to hit Berlin, Paris. They're not threatening to that. So the British were just chomping at the bit. We got to send these storm shadows. Why? Because of Iran. I mean, it's such a stupid argument. And even on the face of it, no one takes it seriously. Because of Iran, that's why you're going to start hitting targets inside Russia.
George, you lived in the UK for a while.
Many years.
What is this? I mean, is it like kind of feeling masculine again, or feeling powerful, the powerful little man, or being ahead in the messaging? I mean, it's completely bewildering to me.
It's bewildering to me too.
Little England, not Great Britain. Little England feels that it still can make or break global events. I mean,
I get it. It wasn't like that when I was growing up. It was always pretty subservient to the United States, but nonetheless, it managed to retain a certain self-respect. There were times when they didn't support the Americans. Lyndon Johnson wanted Britain to take part in the war in Vietnam. I mean, the Wilson government said, we're not going to take part in the war. Thatcher, even Thatcher criticized Reagan at times. She criticized Reagan over the Grenada invasion. She criticized, Israel. So there were times when Britain wasn't like that. But this pathetic performance, that's that I have to say, I'm just baffled by it. I don't quite understand where that's come from. It's
the only thing that I can come up with is that it's like being at a high school dance, and Sikorsky wants the date with the quarterback, and the British said no, we get first dance, okay. And the German dancer's ugly, obviously, so nobody really cares about that. And then they probably have a transvestite representing France, okay? And so, you know, what they're doing, this is this paying homage. Who gets to be in the pecking order? Sikorsky feels really powerful because he knows he's very high in the pecking order.
Yes.
And so with what's her name, Annalena Baerbock, she's playing the same game on the same dance floor.
Right. Yeah. That's right. It's kind of strange because at least I understand Poland and the Baltics. You know, they want to feel important. Plus, they have this strange, obsessive hatred for Russia. You know, it's just loony. But why Britain? You know, a country with a storied history. You know, once a very proud country with had a great empire and once had a great navy. Quite why it's so abject and so pathetic now, that's baffling. I mean, I don't have an easy explanation for that.
You know, one of the things I find so disappointing, you know, Britain could say, well, yeah, you know, we were one of the great empires in history and we learned a lot. We have a lot of wisdom.
Right.
And one of the things we learned from our experience as empires is that diplomacy is probably a good idea. Okay.
Right.
Without diplomacy, you get into a lot of wars, and a lot of wars we could have avoided. Diplomacy, you know, played that role. Germany, of all countries in Europe, okay. Yeah, we know what the Russians are like. Don't fight them. Okay. Good idea. Okay. Right. Pretty good idea not to do. All of historical memory is gone. It's just vacuous. It's just a blank sheet. Because the UK has pearls of wisdom, you know. Well, let me tell you about Trafalgar and all this, you know, but they don't.
No,
you know, in history, they talk about Operation Market Garden, which was a failure.
That's right, but that's it, and that's exactly right. I think you would expect that it would be the other way around, like the Americans would be saying, well, let's do it. Let's you know, start lobbing these missiles into Russia, and the British would be saying, oh, you know, let's cool it. Let's you know, think a little bit before we jump into this. But it's the other way. I mean, it's like it's the British who are, you know, who are just pestering the Americans. Oh, please do it. Yeah, so we have this statement issued today with 6 former defense secretaries, and Boris Johnson, so former prime minister. You know, no, we've got to do it. We got to, you know, lob these missiles into Russia. Ukraine must win. We must stand with Ukraine. You know, I mean, not one of them ever said, well, what the hell has it got to do with Britain? I mean, how is it in any way advancing the interests of Britain or the British people?
The lack of intelligence and the lack of honesty. These Russia is getting missiles from Iran. Well, George has already pointed out, those missiles are not going to hit Western capitals.
They're short-range missiles.
American and British missiles could hit the Russian capital. It's no symmetry. There's no symmetry there.
No symmetry at all. No symmetry. They came up with this story about Iran to justify this enthusiasm to start bombing Russia. Oh, well, this is a game changer. Iran's a game changer. How? Why? In what way is this a game changer? Well, Iran. So if you could say Iran loud enough,
if you say it enough times. If you say Iran enough times.
Exactly. Oh, well, it's Iran. You know, we know those people are crazy. You know, we got to do something about them.
Anyway, this was really eye-opening, okay? And anyone that watches this, please repost it, okay? It's a bit long, and we're good at that. But, I mean, nobody, and I guarantee you, nobody has gone through these documents like we have over the last 2 hours, okay?
Exactly.
And as George has pointed out, and I am in agreement with him, at the end of the press conference, even the purveyors of this ridiculous nonsense can't even defend it.
Exactly. Can't defend it and starts getting very prissy and hissy, you know, as Jamie Rubin has always been wont to do. Annoyed by his being asked perfectly reasonable questions. You don't have any answers to these questions. So you come up with a whole bunch of accusations and you can't even justify it.
What is this cyber entity? I think it's Google. That's it.
I think so. What? I don't know what else. They've given nothing else. The cyber entity embedded. Ooh, you know, embedded. You know, what? It's got a robot. You know. It's like...
Let's make 20 questions. The cyber entity. Can you carry it in a bread box? Can you take it to the beach? Does the cyber entity have a preference for any food? Okay. Does it glow at night? If I were at that press conference, that's exactly what I would say. Let's play a game of 20 questions, okay?
Yeah.
Of course, I'd be handcuffed and taken out, okay?
Yeah. No,
All right,
because
everybody, this was very, very instructive, okay? A bit long, but very, very instructive, okay? Today is Sunday. We just wrapped on one big topic today. We have a live stream tomorrow.
Live stream tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time, so really early, at least on the West Coast. 7 a.m. Well, it is good of you to join us for once. And then Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, I do my solo. Please join us. Think about the very parlous state of the Dropbox that we need to fill that up a little bit. So even Skippy has kind of said, what's going on? And he's one of the good guys. So if you have a few bob in your pocket, whip them out, dunk them in the tip jar. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology, and above all, we'll have the dogs in a better mood sometime. Anyway, remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.